republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. People had a chance to take a look at the agenda. Park and Rec was canceled, so we'll remove that from the committee reports. Is there any other changes? If not, we would entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. I think Rick beat you, Mike, sorry. We got a motion by Robin, seconded by Rick to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Agenda is approved. Guests in open forum, is there anyone here tonight that would like to address the council? All right, we'll move on to number 6, committee reports, presentations, and awards. Personnel committee, we met, would have been whatever the date was that Friday after the first council meeting, so 7th?
7th.
Basically went over the Minnesota paid leave policy. Shannon did a great job of explaining what we're gonna do as a city, how we're gonna run leaves concurrently, and that led to kind of the whole rewriting of that entire policy, basically to make sure everything was all tightened up where it needed to be. And there was a second item that we discussed, because we did another part of the policy. Shannon, can you help me?
Holidays.
Oh yes, the holidays. We made that adjustment, just moving the half day on Good Friday to Christmas Eve. That's what it was. So that was about it for personnel. Any questions on that? All right, EDA. We met Monday night, last Monday, November 10th. We reviewed the housing RFP, and that's been through several revisions. I know planning commissions looked at it. We've looked at it a few times at EDA. We did recommend that on to us. That'll be on item number 8 tonight. That we should have that back by the end of June 2026. That should give us some good information. We do have a seat open at the end of the year. But our current EDA person has only been on for part of this previous term. She does plan to reapply, but there is an open seat. Updated the industrial lot purchase and talked a little bit about the JTF national convening that Jacob was a part of here. That was about it for EDA. Any questions on that? All right, move on to Public Works Committee.
Mike was absent and Becky can't speak very well, so she asked me to step
All right.
up. So Public Works Committee met on November 12th. We talked about a couple of road safety improvements that staff are working on, namely around Edgewood and the new Bills remodel. Some things that'll be coming to you guys likely probably the second meeting in December or the first part of January for consideration to move those forward with next year's street projects. We also talked about one of the replacement units Troy's going to be presenting tonight, and there's a few other HVAC things that are going down at the wastewater facility that were discussed as well with support given to move those forward to try and get them all in before the end of the year. So that was about it.
Okay, any questions for Phil on Public Works? Thank you very much. Excel Advisory Board.
Excel Advisory Board, we met last Friday. We had representatives from the school, the city, the county, and the plant, and basically we just gave updates on projects that we have going on, and everybody else gave updates as well.
Great. Anybody got any good Excel questions for Rick? I'll just bite my tongue. Fire Board.
Fire Board, we met last night. We talked more about as we had maybe discussed previously or had brought up previously, Red Path, not going so well with them, so we talked about potential replacements. So we do have someone we're going to be, a new vendor that we're going to be approaching. We're also going to be approaching Red Path to see what are the odds we can get out of this deal early, breach contract, you know, there's a lot of things you can bring up, but, hopefully it's, just in everybody's best interest that we just part ways, but we'll see, what they say. So both of those, discussions, will be underway. We talked a little bit about the, we have a policy now for, which was, per the state law, we had to have the new Minnesota paid, leave, program. Everybody has to have the policy, drafted shortly here, so we just talked about, so we basically took the, boilerplate template and did some modifications to it, and, thanks to Shannon as well for help on that. So we did eventually, we passed the policy and, talked about there's, like the posters and that you have to post and all that, so, all that, everybody knows what they have to do there. We found some missing money. If you've ever seen the sites, do you have money missing, if you had an old bill or something that, you were owed money on it and you whatever, well, it turns out the fire department was on that list and we had $300 that we were owed, from something we not really sure where it was, but, well, we kinda have an idea, but it wasn't like we had something missing on the books or like an open, receivable or anything like that, so we, authorized to go get that money, so that was easiest motion we ever made, but, sounds like we have one at the city too, so that's, so everybody go home tonight and, flood that website, make sure you don't have any,
What's that
missing money there. So, which I've already checked myself, I don't, but, well, I'm still here, so, and that was about it.
All right, any questions on Fire Board for Rick? All right, we'll move on to number 7, public hearings. Guardian Angels conduit debt. Mr. Ebensteiner will open the public hearing here at 5:07.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yeah, here tonight for the public hearing for Guardian Angels conduit debt. I'll just touch on a couple items and then I'll turn it over to some of the representatives to discuss both the debt and then the project that they're proposing. So we had discussed this at Budget and Finance on August 21st. And then at the October 7th council meeting, we did call the public hearing for this evening. So as part of the city acting as the conduit issuer and Guardian Angels seeking the tax exempt bonds, a public hearing is required, called on the 7th and are holding tonight. So with that, all the attachments that were included, and then you'll see there, and then we'll also have a resolution that I'll ask for approval at the end. But with that, I'll turn it over to Nate with Dorsey to kick it off.
All right, good evening.
Hello.
So the city, I assume, has issued its own debt before, right? Tax exempt debt, cities are allowed to issue tax exempt debt. The tax code and state law allow cities to offer that tax exempt debt to nonprofits, 501c3 nonprofits in the state as well. So what we're asking here tonight is that the city approve the issuance of its notes instead of bonds this time. So you're gonna issue notes and you'll loan the proceeds of the bonds to Guardian Angels, an affiliate of Guardian Angels specifically, for them to carry out their project. So the issuer is the city in this case. The project is actually in Albertville, so we're blending a couple of different state law authorities and tax law authorities for the city of Becker to issue for debt that will be for a project housed in Albertville. So Albertville is technically our host under the law. We've got Albertville approval all in hand. One of the purposes of the issuance of debt is a refunding of 2017 debt that Otsego had issued. So we've also got Otsego approvals in hand. So it's sort of a combination of the three cities working in tandem. But the city will be the issuer for a Series A note and a Series B note in an aggregate amount of up to $40 million. About $30 million will go to the funding of a project that we'll talk about. And about $10 million roughly will go to the refinancing of this prior debt that Otsego had issued for the same building, or the existing portion of the same building. So the way the conduit law works in state law and federal tax law, the borrower assumes all of the liability for the repayment of the notes. So though the city issues the debt, You won't be on the hook for any of the obligations. It's not an obligation to your taxpayers. All of your obligations and rights are assigned to the lender in this case. So you really have no obligation. In the resolution that you'll adopt, you disclaim all liability, pass it on to Guardian Angels or their affiliate. And then in the loan agreement that you'll authorize, you also get indemnification. So Guardian Angels promises to indemnify you if something were to happen during the term of the bonds and somebody didn't repay, you would also be indemnified by them. So you're double protected, no liability doesn't show up on your books. So the resolution before you authorizes the issuance of 2 notes, an A and a B note, in an aggregate amount of not to exceed 40 million. It also authorizes city administrator and the mayor to sign a loan agreement, which I believe is in the packet. So the loan agreement is between the city and the borrower. Angle House LLC is the affiliate of Guardian Angels. You'll issue the notes, they'll execute those notes. It also authorizes the execution of a pledge agreement between the city and Alaris. Alaris is the financial institution that's providing the loan proceeds. So they'll become party to the transaction, essentially step in as lender or step in as the counterparty to the loan. Then you'll also authorize a housing program. The housing program that's in the packet is specific to this project, so it doesn't cover other housing in the city. It's just specific to authorize this project, and it's a requirement of state law. Any questions before I let you hear a little bit about the project?
If everything goes south on this, I realize we're not on the hook for it, but does it affect our bonding ability?
It does not affect your bonding ability. In fact, the only effect that this issuance has on your bonding ability relates to your bank qualified limit this year. So every year you have a $10 million rather limit on what you can bond on a bank qualified basis. That's the only impact that it has on your bonding ability. So after this calendar year, for the term of the bonds, it wouldn't have any impact on your ability to bond for any of your own projects. It's a 20-year bond with a 10-year call, but for those 20 years, it won't affect you at all. Nor would it affect your rating or any of those things.
Okay, any other questions? All right,
Okay?
so we hear a little bit about the project.
Good evening. Steve Coons with EDI, Development Consultant for Guardian Angels. So the project is, as you mentioned, there's refinancing some debt. So the existing property has 63 units of senior living, combination of assisted living, memory care, and a few independent living units. And this project is connecting to that building with an additional 86 units of all independent living units, ranging from 682 square feet to just under 1,500 square feet. The building will also contain common areas, community room, club area, kind of bar area, nice seating areas with fireplaces, and an expanded kitchen and bistro area. And then a health and fitness area with a pretty large number of fitness equipment pieces. And then an aerobics area, and that will be open to the public with memberships to seniors in the public to come in and enjoy the building as well as 2 outdoor pickleball courts that will be open to the public as well. We actually started mobilizing. We had an early start on construction, and we did start mobilizing this week. They'll start moving dirt later this week, and then we're planning completion March of 2027. So. Any questions on the building?
I don't think so. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just double check, is there anybody else that wants to testify at the public hearing? Should we close it then?
Yeah.
Look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
A second.
We have a motion by Robin, second by Rick to close the public hearing. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. All right, public hearing's closed.
All right. With that, could answer any additional questions. Otherwise, we'll look for a motion and a second for resolution 2595.
Right, anybody like to make that motion for resolution 2595?
Make the motion to adopt resolution 2595?
I'll second that.
Okay,
No?
No, I'll just make one comment, and Greg had a great point. It won't have any effect on any items, but you will see it in our audit report, similar to Shepherd of Grace. In the back of the notes, it will just, it references the project and it'll reference just the outstanding bond amount. That's required by GASB standards to report that, just so that a financial statement reader could see that we do have conduit debt outstanding.
okay,
Just wanted to clarify that.
thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the table from Rick, seconded by Mike, to approve resolution 2595. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to board, committee, and consultant reports. Chapters 10 and 11, personnel policy revisions. Shannon's up.
Mayor, council, thank you for your time this evening. Get to talk about Minnesota paid leave. But first off, we'll do chapter 10 because that's easy. It's the holidays in the personnel policy. We would like to do an exchange of the half day on Good Friday to have a full day on Christmas Eve. So there isn't any additional holiday hours given, there's just an exchange for a half day to a full day. Chapter 11, in your packets you will notice there is nothing that's redacted. Ended up redoing the whole leave, chapter 11 leave section. There was a lot of additions and changes in the last couple of years with the ESST leave that made it clunky. And then we had to add the Minnesota paid leave, so we just kind of revamped the whole thing. Starting with Minnesota paid leave, that was passed by the Minnesota State Legislature in 2023, and it's implemented and set to begin January 1, 2026. The program is new to the state, and it'll give paid leave for medical or family. It's detailed in state law what they can leave for. The program is mandatory for all employees in the state of Minnesota. There's just a few exceptions. We aren't any of the exceptions. So it does provide either 12 weeks of pay in either bucket, or you can combine the two, but you cannot take more than 20 weeks in that year. Employers did have a choice to do the state plan, which right now that's legislatively set at a contribution of 0.88%. 50% has to be, not more than 50% is paid by the employees. But as employers, you do have the option to go through a private plan. So we went out for rates and did get a lower contribution rate of 0.78% on the private plan. And then that was approved by the state. So our contribution for the city, like I said, would be 0.78, and then 0.39% is the employee contribution. And we also had some other choices that we could make. The paid leave pays like 50 to 90%. It depends on what your wage is, depending on the state median wage. But we could choose as employers if we wanted to add any of their accrued city benefits, vacation or sick, to that amount, so they would make the same amount on their leave as they did if they were working for the city the whole time, which we have chosen to do that. We also, they can take intermittent leave, and we could cap those hours. So we did cap those at 480 hours, which is equal to 12 weeks. And we also could choose if we wanted all of the leaves to run concurrently. And when I say all the leaves, that's the federal FMLA, the Minnesota pregnancy and family leave. And then also you had to draft the policy to make sure that your sick and vacation didn't those kind of ran concurrently also, so you weren't having a whole lot of time taken off past the 12 weeks. And then, so that was why, another reason that we did all of the changes in Chapter 11 and redid that was because we had to make sure all of the leaves ran concurrently, and also that you identified how much they could take over and above what was paid leave. And we combined, like I said, we combined the sick leave and the ESST sections because last year the state said we had to have the same leave qualifications under ESST, and it had to be the same for our sick leave. So combine those, so that all made sense. Did have the Chapter 11 reviewed by legal. There wasn't any changes, so that was presented then to the Personnel Committee. And then they made the recommendation that it go to council this evening. Does anyone have any questions? I've kind of been digging into this for the last couple months, so I'll see if I can answer anything.
I just have a comment that I've heard many people try and describe this new program, and everybody just kind of throws their hands up in the air and listening to you describe it. That's got to be the most knowledgeable, detailed description I've ever heard of anybody talk about this new program. So tip of the cap to you, because this is I've heard nobody ever describe anything. They just go, I don't know. So you can tell you've been researching it quite a bit. So kudos.
Thank you.
Any other?
I have a question. You mentioned the private insurance. And it pays a percentage of the salary?
Correct.
Does the state program pay 100%, or does it pay the same percentage?
Pays the same percentage.
Okay, so they don't get their full salary just with this paid leave thing?
No.
Okay.
No, and it does, like, the lower your wage, the greater percentage that is paid by the insurance company or the state. So it's kind of a sliding scale, the more money that you make.
Yeah, I can understand that part.
Yep, the less that,
But if they, so by combining all these, do they end up getting their full wage? Or,
that is how our policy is written. So that if they have a leave bank and for sick or vacation, those hours can be added to their paid leave from the insurance to make them.
'cause I didn't realize that this paid leave wasn't like 90% salary or something like that, you know?
Oh, yep, nope, it can be up to 90%, but like I said, that's lower wage employees will get more from the state or
Right,
the
yeah.
insurance. But
For the employee, is this taxable then?
the one thing you had to ask. No.
I take back what I said.
Yeah.
No.
We think so?
I think so.
I surely can figure that out for
Oh, I'm
sure and
just
let you
curious.
know.
Actually, it doesn't affect what I think about it.
I mean, one thing we did learn was, and we thought it was important to make sure that they could use their vacation or sick time, was because if they just took the Minnesota paid leave, they would not get any service credits for PERA.
Right, well, that, and they might not have enough money either. I mean, if they really truly need this paid leave, you know, if they can't survive, this doesn't do any good.
You know, SARS allows you to backfill if you had PTO stashed or something
Yeah,
like that,
that's-
too. You could fill in with that.
I guess as long as the employees know that they have to use that PTO and stuff like that.
Well, they don't have to, that's their
No,
choice.
if they want the full,
Right.
And then the 50%, 70%, whatever, that was, we determined that, but that has nothing to do with whether we do the state program or the private. That's, the withdrawal or the employer portion of it, that was set by us, so, that's irrelevant of.
yeah, I'm okay with that. I just had some questions about it, you know.
All right, any other questions? Well, again, Shannon, thank you. I know you, like Rick said, you've been working on it forever, so we'd entertain a motion to accept the changes to chapter 10 and 11 of the Becker employee personnel policy.
Make that motion.
Motion by Robin, do we have a second? And second by Rick. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Jacob, the Comprehensive Housing Study RFP.
I didn't time my walk up very well either, so. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight, we have a comprehensive housing study RFP. We've been working on this for a couple months, as Rick had mentioned, and it's gone through a couple of iterations just to make sure that we have it where we want it to be, and as staff, we believe it will be useful to us. The goal behind this is discussed in the RCA. It talks about the comprehensive plan and some of the goals surrounding housing. Talks about reviewing and updating the housing study every 5 years or sooner if it's deemed appropriate. A lot of that information gets outdated fairly quickly, and this was done, the previous was an executive summary. It was using the county's information and kind of regurgitated that information into an executive summary for the city. That was right around COVID when it began, and so a lot of this information is pretty outdated at this point. The RFP itself is broken down into 3 sections. So rather than just a data, we wanted this to be something that's really usable for staff, for you as the elected officials on the city council, for the planning commission, the EDA, and for developers in general. So something that's usable by everyone, and that's graphically friendly, that has information presented in a way that's easy to understand, that's concise, and that will allow policy decisions to be made based off of that. So it's not something that's just, here's the data and we set it on the shelf. It's usable. So by doing it in 3 sections, there's a data presentation and trends section. So that's purely just raw data. What are the trends that we're seeing in housing, employment? Section 2 is a costs and incentives analysis. So the basic goal behind that is to assess if tools are being used financially by other communities and surrounding areas that give them a competitive advantage. And are there things that the city should be looking at potentially to strategize and use that may help us in development? And then section 3 is kind of the so what. That's what I call it, the takeaways, the strategies, the recommendations. It doesn't tie you to anything, but it gives you the ability to make policy decisions. And so it's gone through a number of iterations. EDA, the mayor pointed out that EDA went through this, made a motion to second to approve it, to bring it forward, and I know Planning Commission's gone through it a couple times as well. So with that, we're seeking for a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2590, which would authorize the release and publication of the RFP to complete the Comprehensive Housing Study Needs Analysis and Development Action. And I'll point out that there's $30,000 that's budgeted in the administrative CIP for this year that covers the cost of that. And then additionally, any contract, once the process has gone through, any contract or anything like that with a selected consultant would come back to council for your approval as well. So before the project takes off, this would come back to you. The EDA would interview the applicants for this. Staff would do a first flush, and then EDA would be the one to interview any of the consultants, and then that would come forward as well. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right, Comprehensive Housing Study RFP, we've been looking at it for a few months. Any more questions for Jacob? If not, we would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2590.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2590 RFP for comprehensive housing study.
A second. We have a motion by Mike, a second by Rick. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we are on to the Becker Athletic Complex scoreboard replacement. Chris is up.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and Council. For tonight, I have an RCA and a resolution for you for the replacement of the scoreboards at the BAC. Included in your packet is proposal for those scoreboards, and then also the report from Youth Baseball that outlines some of their projects or things that they would like to see done at the BAC, so include that for your guys' reference. All four of the main baseball fields over there currently have scoreboards on them. They haven't worked in the entire time I've worked for the city. So I know we had a cleanup day several years ago, and there was attempts made then to kind of get them going. That did not work. And it really was kind of not really something on the forefront of replacement. It wasn't in the CIP at that time. There hadn't been working. There wasn't calls to get them working, so it kind of was there. But now it is something that youth baseball has outlined as an enhancement they would like to see at the BAC. They're proposing a shared project with the city, so they are willing to donate money towards this project as well. I have that listed in the RCA. One of the nice features of these scoreboards is anybody that has one of these, you can either Bluetooth connect. So a lot of parks I've gone to usually just has a little code you can scan on the fence, and then a fan or a coach or somebody can actually keep score for the game. So a little bit of interaction and kind of enhances the experience there at the field. As I stated, Becker Youth Baseball has pledged $24,000 to help offset the cost for this replacement project, so they are stepping up with some money to help with that. The city would be asked to cover the remaining costs, and then the scoreboards, when they're done, would be the property of the city, and we maintain them and keep them like any other asset that we have. Youth Baseball did come to the Park and Rec Committee, and they presented all their projects. This was one that we brought to the front that we could address now. That committee did support the project, and so we're bringing it for consideration tonight. We did have money in this Park and Rec, or the Park and Trail CIP for scoreboard replacements. I've included that in the RCA. And then tonight, what I'm looking for would be a motion and a second to approve the resolution 2593 that authorize staff to spend up to $28,800. So kind of the city's portion of that plus a contingency. There's some electrical work. We moved the fence in on field 3 2 years ago. And so where the scoreboard was is now where the batting cages are. So there'll be a little electrical work we have to do there. And then, you know, these haven't ran for a while, so who knows, we fire a new one up, we might have some other electrical we gotta address. So just wanted to have some money there available in case something pops up. The 20% contingency for those, scoreboard replacements, as detailed in the proposal from AIM. The total cost of the project would be offset again by that $24,000 donation by Becker Youth Baseball. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
All right.
Maybe, I don't know, I keep mumbling over all this, so.
That's right. Did you just celebrate your 10-year anniversary
I
last
did, it must be going, I don't know.
Well, I'm just thinking the scoreboards haven't run in 10 years, so.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you turn them on, there's a few light bulbs that would come on.
Right.
But, yeah, it's not quite to the full experience we're looking for.
All right. Any questions for Chris on the scoreboard replacement?
Park and Rec did approve this.
Okay. Thank you to Becker Youth Baseball for the generous donation. It's great to partner with you out there, and that's awesome. We appreciate that. All right, we look for a motion on Resolution 2593, authorizing staff to make the purchase through AIM Electronics.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Robin, second by Mike. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to number 9, administrator and staff reports, third quarter financials. Mr. Ebensteiner.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Sorry, a little bit late with the third quarter, but got it on the agenda for tonight. Yeah, really an opportunity. I'll touch on really the general fund, special revenue funds, and then the enterprise funds. And I'll start off with the general fund. So really just I'll highlight a couple items. So tax revenues are at 53.74% through September. So as expected, we'll get the additional 50% in late November, early December. On the revenue side, intergovernmental revenues, a couple items, police aid. We really budget that based on what we received in the prior year with no knowledge of what the state might do with some of their aids. So police aid did exceed budget by around $50,000. Fire relief pass-through aid exceeded by $28,000, so some good positive variances there. Charters for services for the community center. That's strong at 79% through 75% of the year. And interest earnings continue to exceed expectations at a little over 170% of budget at $138,000 within the general fund. So just a really positive interest rate environment at this time. So overall revenues in the general fund at 64% of budget. Expenditures currently at 66% of budget. Many departments are trending at that 55 to 70%. The one item that stood out there, the fire pass-through aid, that's budgeted for the expense side as we remit that to the fire relief. That went out in October, so saw that variance in September there. EDA fund revenues largely tied to property taxes. We did get our first half in July. Feel like a broken record, but with that Rockefeller grant, there was about $126,000 that was deferred, recognized in '25. So we do see some over expenditure as we're utilizing those grant proceeds in '25 here. So expenditures at 81%, consistent with expectations. Golf course fund revenues are once again ahead of 2024 year to date. They're at the end of September, we're at $3,006,305 or 95% of budget. So that was about $75,000 higher than 2024 year to date. And then overall expenditures in golf are at 82% of budget. Currently returning, or at the end of third quarter, they were returning $415,000 of income. So some really positive results through the third quarter. Water fund revenues consistent with typical, 3 quarters of use, about $85,000 ahead of 2024. This was a result, we had some increases in rates as well as we are billing the city for their use of water as well. So city departments are paying the water fund back to make them whole. So this is the first full year that we've done that. And then expenses are at 70% of total year budget with a lot of capital in progress or some remaining items planned for the fourth quarter. And just touching on a couple additional items, wastewater fund, domestic wastewater, really consistent with 1 through 3 sewer volume, really much more consistent through September. Revenues at 83%. We have had leachate revenue from Excel in 2025, amounting to around $163,000. That contributed to the positive variance in other revenue, as well as the interest earnings that we saw in the general fund. Expenses, once again, some significant capital spend in '25. Chris and his staff have done a great job of rolling out those projects. A lot of those have been completed or some remaining planned for fourth quarter. And then industrial wastewater revenues are tracking as expected. Revenues around 80% and expenses currently at 59%. Budget and Finance had reviewed the September 25 financials and no action, but can field any questions.
You had mentioned that police and fire aid was up this year. Does it ever go down?
We've had some good increases. I'm sure it could go down. In my tenure over the last few years, we've had some good increases.
And there's been like one-time aids that have happened, more than once in the last couple of years, I would say. The year of the surplus, the police department's got a lot of extra aid, and then they also supplement PRA aid as well. So a lot of that depends on what you're paying for your department as well.
I
So
thought we did have I want to say 2013, 14, 15, somewhere there, we actually had a year or two where it went down and we were,
I gotta believe if the budget is screwed up.
it was when the state was having trouble because it comes from the
I
state.
gotta
yeah.
believe it would go down. You can't keep on increasing it,
Yeah, so for us during a budget cycle, we don't have any better data to go off of, so we'll roll forward what actuals were the prior year as our new budget.
Well, that's the reason I asked that is.
Yep.
Maybe you should pick a number someplace, you know, where, if you think it could go down, pick a number that would,
Yeah,
so you're.
conservative.
I mean, it's great that you get that extra
Yep.
money, but I wouldn't count on it.
Yep. No, that's good. And then the fire aid, that's a pass through, so it's just a net zero effect, but we'll continue to monitor that.
Did you want to talk about the tax statement? or-
I do.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
I want you to talk
Yeah,
about that.
I actually have I actually scanned a copy and I'll touch on this one.
Everybody get their tax statement last weekend?
Yep.
Yep.
Do you know it's way better than it looks for City of Becker residents? Did ya?
What do you mean?
Ta-da, here we go, Mark.
What do you mean, way better than it looks?
So this is the back of your tax statement that you would have received in the mail,
Yep.
hopefully earlier this week. Some I've chatted with others that hadn't received theirs yet, but City of Becker. So you'll see here that it has the 25 actual and then the 26 proposed. So the percent change is noted as 4.8%. The challenge, I'd actually reach out to the county and just confirm the data, and it's a good observation. The 25 actuals were not revised. We made a change this year that we touched on during the budget process, but as part of our general levy, we're now levying for our EDA. So on your tax statement, if you flip this over, you'll see the special taxing district would have went from your prior amount down to zero, and then the EDA levy was included in your main city levy. However, I'll bring up, I just have a little chart which will be easier to follow. But for 25, the 10,013,000 was just our general levy. It excluded the EDA levy. So our total levy with both the special and the general was 10,247,399. Our new proposed levy was the 10,498,579. So our overall levy increased 2.45% as opposed to 4.8%. But no blame on the county. They were just revising it. The data they include back there is primarily the general levy. We had just made the change this last year to pull in our special district into our general levy. So for the data point on the back of the statement. So much better than what's shown on the statement. We are at the 2.45% increase from 25 to 26 proposed.
I just think that's a huge kudos to staff on their budgeting. If you look at that previous slide, if Mark can throw that up there, I mean, even at 4 point, whatever they had listed up there, we were favorably compared, but if you look across there at 2.45%, other than some school districts who maybe didn't have a levy renewed, that's a full point or a half point lower than anybody else, so. It's awesome.
The dollar value went up because of the increase in property values, but.
Right, but the percentage to be at 2.45, I think that's awesome, so I just wanna make sure everybody was aware of that, cause I got a little sticker shock when I opened it this weekend and thought, 4.8, that's not what I remembered, so thank you for looking into it.
Yep. No, great question. All right, so no action item on the update for financials, but any other questions? All right.
No other questions?
Nope, all right, I'm done.
I don't know, I was really pumped about the 2.45, it was a snoozer for everybody else, was like, whatever.
Whatever.
Whatever, I don't know, I was pretty
It's the
happy.
bottom line that I look at.
Yeah, well,
And that's up.
for sure.
And I guess it's a good opportunity. If anybody has any questions about their tax statements, I'm available. I can answer any questions or dig into anything they see. If it is on valuations, that would be a county question. Can contact the county assessor.
Sure. All right, thank you, Mark. All right, moving on to B, Assessment Services Agreement with Sherburne County.
There we go. Yeah, we were just touching on assessments. So, not a big item, but we don't touch on this. It only happens every about 3 years. So wanted to bring it as an actual, request for council action, just to touch on it. So, Sherburne County has served for many years as the property assessment or appraisal service for the city. The most recent contract was signed in 2022, and that was for assessment 25, 26, 27. So our current agreement will expire June 30th of 27. Conducting the regular valuation properties is the responsibility of the city. Larger cities do have, full assessing departments. However, for a city of our size, it makes sense to contract, especially with the county with with their experience. So, really, as staff, we believe the continuity, working with the county, makes sense, and is really the least expensive opportunity to provide these services. The city attorney, did review and didn't have any recommended changes. They had not increased their rates for a lot of years. It was actually, I had looked back at the prior contract. I think on page 3 of the agreement, it shows the new ones, but prior to this year, they were at $6 for residential, improved, $4 for unimproved, and $8 for commercial, and that had been for an extended period of time. So they are proposing 3% increases each year for the renewed contract. And our annual fees are approximately $12,000. I looked at the last couple bills were mid-11, right around 12,000, just for an aspect there. So with that, can I answer any questions about the agreement, but would look for a motion to adopt Resolution 2587, which would approve that agreement and continue to work with Sherburne County.
Any questions on that agreement? A lot cheaper than hiring our own assessor, I would imagine. All right, we look for a motion then for Resolution 2587 for the assessment agreement with Sherburne County.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Rick, second by Robin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Troy has a domestic RAS building barred unit replacement.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight, I have an RCA and Resolution 2591 for your consideration. The barred unit on the domestic RAS building is original from 2008. Service life is roughly 15 years, and it is currently on its 17th year. The decision was made to replace to avoid costly repairs as it has outlived its service life. Staff received 2 quotes for the replacement, and they were included in the packet. I am looking for a motion and a second approving Resolution 2591, approving the barred replacement for the domestic RAS building. With that, I will stand with any questions.
All right,
How long did you practice that?
well done.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Declined.
All right, anybody have any other questions about?
We talked about this at Public Works also in the past.
All right. Well, there's no questions, so we'll look for a motion on Resolution 2591 to replace the barred system.
I'll make that motion, 2591.
A second.
We have a motion by Mike, second by Rick. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Austin has a call for a public hearing for an easement vacation.
That is correct. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight, it's an item to request. Tonight's item is a request by John Tennyson on behalf of LTTM Properties to vacate an existing drainage and utility easement located between 2 adjacent parcels on First Street. You may recall last month we did do the encroachment agreement, which allowed the city allowed them to build retaining wall and kind of get their project started. But John did actually get the ownership taken care of for both parcels now. And so this vacation is really to just facilitate the lot combination we had kind of discussed a little bit, which will merge the 2 parcels into one, basically one lot that he owns. And once those parcels are combined, the easement along the shared interior property line really won't have any value or use because there is no reason to put utilities down the middle of the parcel. Under Minnesota statute 412.851, public hearing is required for anytime the city tries to vacate a street, a right-of-way, or a drainage or utility easement. Tonight's action does not vacate the easement. It just sets the public hearing for December 2nd of 2025 at 5 PM. It just simply starts the statutory process by setting that public hearing. So with that, I'd be looking for a motion in a second, adopting Resolution 2594, a resolution setting a public hearing to be held on December 2nd, 2025 at 5 PM to consider the proposed vacation of multiple drainage and utility easements in the LTTM properties and E&E addition plats. That's all I have.
Okay. Any question for Austin? So this is the Von Hansen
Correct.
property?
Exactly, yep.
All right.
Yes.
All right, if there's no question, would anybody like to move approval of Resolution 2594 to set that public hearing for December 2nd at approximately 5 PM?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mike, a second by Robin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. LaRue's up with the CUC legislative priorities.
Mayor Cobinger, city council members, at the last two executive sessions, the councils discussed Coalition of Utility Cities legislative priorities for 2026. And based on that discussion, there's a resolution before you tonight, Resolution 2588, that lists out the city's priorities as it relates to the CUC. And there's some similarity, but there's a couple of unique ones for ourselves. Priorities in the order listed in the resolution include correcting some statutory language that is open to interpretation, and the interpretation by the state does not positively affect the city. So there's about 4 areas that both this city and others will pursue on the upcoming session. Work with stakeholders to repeal the moratorium on nuclear generation in Minnesota, new nuclear generation. Urging that Jericho continue to operate until adequate sources of power are identified and brought online. Provide clarity regarding the state's carbon-free standard as it relates to generating, and then restore the Community Energy Transition Grant Program. And with that, I think that reflects the council's wishes. If there are changes, we can make them. Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Greg? I would agree, it reflects what we've talked about. It's nice to be on record that we think Sherco should stay open. All right, so we're looking for a motion on Resolution 2588 to support the CUC's 2026 legislative priorities.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mike, second by Rick. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed state no. That motion carries. Thank you. You're up again for the consent agenda.
Mayor Cobinger, city council members, items for review, approval, and adoption on tonight's consent agenda include the hiring and termination report, payment of the bills, the minutes of the November 4th city council meeting, the minutes of the November 4th exec session, Resolution 25-89 approving the 2026 city council meeting schedule, updates to the city's data practices policies, Resolution 25-92 approving the cross-country ski trail grooming contract with Sherburne County, and partial pay request number 14 in the amount of $231,704.02 to Apex Construction for the Police Department City Hall project. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Greg on the consent agenda? Just want to point out, it's great that we use the county to do the trails for the small fee they charge. We probably couldn't even have one piece of equipment or start the engine on what was pulling it. So thank you for continuing to work on that. I think that's a great idea. Anything else on the consent agenda? If not, we'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Robin, second by Rick. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Consent agenda is approved. Anybody else have anything that should come before council tonight? All right. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Mike, second by Rick, to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please state aye. Anyone opposed? State no. Meeting's adjourned at 5:55. Take a brief break and come back for the exec session. Yours work?
No.
No, not done either. Yeah.
Sure was an awful quiet meeting tonight. Just can't talk.
There were a couple of froggy.
I'm like,
I should have required a roll call.
Yeah.
oh.
Becky's over there with a pack of Pall Malls.
Oh, there's not.
Nothing's connected.
Mine originally said HDMI, not.
Yeah, you're not hooked, you're not plugged in.
I got nothing.
Pretty pumped to see that percentage compared to.
Yeah.
I
That's,
came in from my Monday morning with Greg. And I'm like, wait a minute here. This is not.
yeah. Yeah, it's always been a little weird having the separate EDA. I mean, I know why you do it,
Yeah.
but that's, at the same time, it's like,
You broke it.
Is there anything we have to be able to see?
I think as long as you can see it on here, I can try and zoom in.
community funding, yeah.
There. Is that better?
Mark, hold up your phone, I can see the reflection on it. A little mirror.
She see that.
There we go. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, that's better.
Community funding priorities survey.
I'll explain. I did not put this survey together. It was given to us.
It was given to us?
Yeah, I'll explain. Yes, for free.
The state's gonna collect all this money for the. They're gonna tax it when it comes out. Because they're capturing more money.
Yeah.
All right. Let's call the executive session to order at 5:59. And first up is Jacob with the federal EDD priorities discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council. We received this email not very long ago from Don Hickman, so I think everybody here knows, or many of you know who Don Hickman is from the Initiative Foundation. So to give a little backstory briefly, the county had filed for a federal EDD regional organization years ago, so to have it recognized with, it would have been Wright County, Sherburne County, Stearns, and Benton. That was rejected there was some really interesting reasons as to why. It wasn't really great reasons, but it was rejected. The county has been trying to get a federal designated organization to be an economic development district, so that's a federally recognized economic development district. It allows for funding to be organized at a much bigger level. So federal funding typically works its way through those EDD organizations. So Don Hickman has been working with the county to put this together. Dan Weber, Brian Fleming from the county have been working on this as well. So they have filed their application for that. So the counties of Benton, Stearns, and Sherburne. Wright County chose not to participate. So there's a lot of regional development organizations in the state. There's Sherburne, Wright, Stearns, and Benton are one of the few that don't have one of these districts. And it does provide a lot of avenues for funding of different projects. So we were provided this while they wait for federal approval from the US EDA. They are asking for, the Initiative Foundation will kind of use this as a trial period to prove the value of the organization while they wait for that federal designation to come through. The district would be guided by county and regional staff. So currently, the representatives of the county that would be on it, so Benton is Commissioner Scott Johnson and Tim Reuter from the Benton Economic Partnership. Sherburne would be Commissioner Danielowski and Andrew Hulse from the EDA. And then Stearns would be Commissioner Jeff Bertram and Terrell Clark. So that's who would function kind of as this group. They emailed this survey. Their 2026 goal is to develop grant proposals that serve a significant portion of the communities within 3 counties. So to determine their priorities, they're asking for this survey to be completed. And so they need it by December 1st. It was a really quick turnaround. They only gave us a few weeks to do that. And we went through the survey based on a lot of the discussions we've had here that council's had over the last year, even more recent months. They asked for us to rank the top 3 funding priorities that they should focus on. Now you'll notice that there's 13 in this group. We went through and organized these based on these discussions, but we want to make sure that we're in line with council on these. So these are what we're recommending based on what we've heard, but any feedback. So I'll come back to these in a minute. So this is the ranking priorities. One is indicate current stages of advancement for each. And again, based on various things we've done, we've indicated advancement, any specific projects, and then what are the biggest challenges. So the first thing we want to make sure and we're in alignment here is number 1 is streets and transportation, water, wastewater treatment. Those are the 2 big ones, because without any of that stuff, you can't have housing, you can't have really anything, you can't have business growth, can't do any of that. Housing kind of come next. They say affordable housing, senior housing.
Yeah, I question on that, because this is a funding, it's not, do we think housing is important? This is a question on funding. So funding in terms of housing is gonna be, call them specialty. I mean, it's.
Yep. So we put them there because housing's been a major deal for the city, and I think just in the county in general, but they can certainly be moved around. And again, this is funding priorities, to your point.
Yeah, I wouldn't think, I mean, when we look at all the things that are up there, I wouldn't think going after, say, funding for low-income housing is number 3 on the list.
Well, affordable, there's a difference between low income and affordable in this circumstance, but it is how they define it. So I think, to be clear, if there's questions about what are they defining as affordable housing, that should probably be clarified, because low income is very different than what this is referring to, at least from what I.
It would be the next step up, right? I mean, it's not.
You're talking about income aligned, if you want to use that term.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, you're still receiving, money from the state with, it's just paying less of the.
This is what your typically middle income families would need to live in. Senior housing's another one. Retention and expansion, we put this at 5. We do a lot in it, but again, this is a funding thing. You're not necessarily funding a lot of that outside of infrastructure. All those things go towards doing that, but Parks and Rec, that's already done quite a bit at the city level, but is that an economic development tool? It's at 6. Childcare is at 7, it's kind of in the middle. We've talked about it before, and it is a priority, but again, for funding, is that something that we want to focus on? Green space, Main Street, revitalization, support for entrepreneurship, workforce development, we don't do a lot of. That's not really a city. A lot of times that refers to nonprofit organizations or other ones that are doing workforce development for businesses, or they're focusing on that. Public safety buildings, we've just built a facility with that. It doesn't really apply. And then public library, we already have one of those. So this is what we took a stab at doing based on our discussions in the past, but it can certainly be shifted around.
What do they call the difference between, you get the green space park, what's the difference between that and then the parks and recreation?
My take, I don't know why they're separated, but oftentimes, sometimes they put them in two different categories. I don't know why. Typically, they're the same thing. But I would say if it's open space, maybe that's what they're referring to. It's not necessarily a structured park system. It's more of passive versus active. That's the only thing I can think of. But they didn't give any definitions for any of these. So we're making our best guess on priorities.
I think probably park and recreation is more of a programming, if you offer programs in your facilities. Lifeguard, we offer swim lessons. We don't have a lot of rec programming, but we have a fair amount to BCC, and I think that would be the difference between the two categories.
So when they talk about funding priorities here, I mean, is this like a list of stuff that we would potentially go after federal funds for? I mean, or is this like when we put together our city budget, what are the highest, I mean, is this strictly our, like, kind of like what are our values as a city when we do the budget? Or is this what would potentially, because
This is federal funding.
okay, so this is, if we were to seek federal funding, what would be the priority of what
That's
we
the
would?
predominant use of the organizations to do the federal funding pieces.
Okay, so,
Because without doing that, a lot of the federal funding you just don't have access to on a small level to be able to get to those. So it's missing out. The other thing it does too is it provides a better avenue for disbursement of the federal funding.
Does it matter where you have these ranked?
Well, it does for what because they're gonna react on these based on what they're hearing from all of the different municipalities. So it does matter where they're ranked. At least they say the top three, but we wanna rank all of them because I don't know if they're also gonna consider the other ones.
so what's affordable housing at the federal level other than HUD, I guess?
Well, again, I think that's the term, there is HUD, but I think there's also, how do I explain this? I think there's varying definitions. So the federal level, you have HUD, but I think you also have some programs that are affordable at a different level. There's various levels of affordable housing.
That come in through federal funding?
Yeah. But I think it's something from their end that they need to clarify as to what they're targeting, because it'll make a difference on what they're applying for.
Right, when there could be a huge difference between affordable housing in Stearns County and Benton or Sherburne.
Correct.
What I've seen is down payment assistance
Okay.
from the feds. In those programs.
So if you want that shifted, we certainly can. That's why we wanted to bring it to you, because we had a pretty short amount of time to respond.
I think you've ranked the correct ones on the bottom. I just first blush look at it and think maybe business retention is higher than the two housings in my mind, but that's just me. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
And I think we've certainly put a lot of effort into it. It was more of the funding.
Sure.
So, yeah, we can put it there. And do you want senior above affordable, or do you want?
I'm seeing some head nods on that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see the yeah, and I think the senior above the.
I will tell you, the term affordable housing makes some people nervous.
And, certainly, we've seen that, and we've had to clarify, I mean, the state, when we did the grant with Luann Drive, we had to be very specific about what we were asking. The questions about what did that mean, what were the income levels. When you do TIF, there are certain levels. We are talking incomes, though, that do hit police officers, teachers. Those are the kind of levels that we're talking about. Versus Section 8 HUD housing vouchers, which is a very different sphere.
And I'm not opposed to the the childcare, I just, something from the feds, I just,
Tough
I'm
enough for
leery
'em.
on that.
It's tough enough for them dealing with the
They
state.
have a 900, they'll have a 900-page policy they have to follow, and it won't be affordable childcare. Robin?
So, go ahead, Robin, sorry.
I felt like you had something on your mind.
I don't know how far this goes anyways. I think leaving it how you have it right now is fine.
Okay. And I will say this is a trial period. This isn't probably gonna be our last blush at guiding what actually happens. I think they're just trying to group some things into, here's what we're hearing predominantly from the areas, so I will make that caveat. I don't think it's like you're written in stone on this, but.
If you scroll
Well,
up,
if this all goes through and all happens, is there stuff that is not gonna be included in it, or is there?
No, this just, so, and I've talked to Shannon about this because she's had a lot of experience with this up in Warren. So each regional district has its kind of, its own focus, really. It doesn't mean that they're not doing other things, but a lot of them have a predominant thing that they're focused on. But they still can do other
Okay.
funding activities. Did I tackle that right after okay.
We gotta think just about every single one of these EDA districts is gonna have water, wastewater, and streets, and I mean, that's gonna be number one and two for everybody.
I would anticipate they would, because when we first saw it, that was my first thing. It's like, this is, you have to have all this stuff to do really anything else that we're talking about.
well, the fact, number one is that we're studying the 10 and 25. Number two is water, wastewater. We're putting in a bonding request. And we just passed a motion tonight on, you know, the electricity and Excel and data center stuff. So I feel like it aligns with our top three.
And I think we've heard this, Phil has mentioned this, I mean, certainly without water or wastewater, any of those, I mean, you can't serve homes, you can't serve businesses, you can't do any of that. So.
Right.
And then it kind of defeats the purpose of doing business expansion when you don't have the utilities to serve
Will
them.
this thing be called 7W then, or is it
Yep,
gonna have a different?
it would be
name?
7W.
Okay, so would Wright County, if they ever had a change of heart, would they just join 7W, or do they just?
It's a good question.
SW.
I don't know how that works, especially if you have to do a refiling if another county
Or
rejoins.
would they go to have one on their own?
I don't know all the details behind what Wright County is doing.
They don't wanna do nothing,
Yeah.
but
And I don't know why they necessarily pulled out this time. I haven't had deep conversations with Dan or Brian about that.
so, let's just say this, this comes in, then does that mean, does 7W then would get do they have a board then, or do they?
Yeah, there would be a structure that was formatted. Right now, they're just operating with the Initiative Foundation backing everything, and these individuals that were mentioned functioning as the de facto kind of advisory board on a lot of this stuff. But I don't know if there's any set bylaws at this point. They're just trying to formulate the priorities while they're filing weights
Okay, so, but
to get a leg up on doing stuff before they get their go ahead.
probably each county will have a representative or.
Yep, and that's,
whatever,
and that's what's in here. So Benton has, all three, they have one commissioner that's from the county board. And then there's a staff of some sort, whether economic development staff, or in this case for Sherburne County, it's Andrew Hulse, who's on the EDA. So as Rayanne Danielowski, who's on the county commission, and then Andrew.
Andrew's on both.
Yeah, and he's on, yep. So you have two.
So this is just giving them some guidance, but it's not an endorsement or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
So would they typically work with, I mean, if you have any experience with these in other areas, I mean, do they typically work with us for, if we're looking for bonding on the 1025, I mean, do they approach us, or do they kind of operate as their own whatever, and maybe we catch you, maybe we don't, or?
They would act as a resource. So Malacca was in 7E, and the RDC over there was located in Moore, and they had a staff, and, they would work a lot with local businesses for loans, a lot of gap financing, things like that, loan guarantees. I think that's where the federal part would also come in. You'd have loan guarantees that would back a local bank doing a loan. but there's 10, looks like there's 12 in Minnesota, 12 RDCs that operate. 7W is the only one that isn't, registered as it were. So we would just be following the rest. Shannon's had experience up in, what's that, Northwest Regional Development. And I've had 70 and, yeah. They're not gonna lead out. They will be in a supporting role. So it will be on us to make sure that we bring them along and that they're the access to those programs for us.
I think you mentioned something too that was important on the banking side. This is kind of an ancillary note, but with a lot of these grant things, loans are a little more easily obtained because the risk gets taken off on a portion from the banks, and so it allows people to tap into a lot of those resources, whereas they wouldn't be able to otherwise, because a bank wouldn't necessarily be willing to lend them money without the backing of an RDC.
Yeah. That's, yeah. My only, which I know this isn't what we're talking about here, but when we get looped in with St. Cloud, they may have drastically different priorities, I guess, than we would, they might like infrastructure, but they could, there's things in their list that could go straight to the top that we would not, and I don't think Benton County probably would either, so.
And I would say based on the Sherburne County level, and I agree, it's a metro, so you're dealing with a more densely populated area. Infrastructure is a hot topic pretty much everywhere, so I would venture to guess that we're probably gonna see this in other municipalities too, so.
So do they pretty much become our conduit then to USEDA? Is that pretty much who we would, if we ever had anything, we would typically pipe everything through them at that point?
Correct.
So, okay.
Without it, it makes it, we talked about doing like federal EAA grants and stuff like that for some of the incubator, but without something like this, it's even more difficult and an uphill climb to get those. So if you're okay with it, sounds like we're okay with the list as it's current, okay. And then I won't spend a ton of time here, we just these are just stages of advancement based on what we're doing. Some are in planning, some we haven't started, some kind of venture across multiple, and so it's based on what we've been doing. Like infrastructure, for example, says planning, feasibility, and construction. We're in various different levels of doing all of those efforts. Childcare, we did feasibility, right? We haven't constructed anything, but we did the RCCIP rural grant program. They said describe any specific projects. You mentioned one that I did not have on here, but it's Trunk Highway 25 and 10 should be on here. Water treatment facility, that's been mentioned too, because that's a major deal. City-owned property infrastructure installation. And then industrial park. So there is some industrial park work that still needs to be finished to fully serve like the Microsoft site and some of the other ones. And so that would be another thing, is that type of work. And then generally we put not specific, but generally funding for roads, water, sewer for any development is a priority that we put on here. And then the biggest challenges that face, again, funding and requests for incentives. We don't really know what to put beyond that. So that's really the biggest mountain to climb.
You just list the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll add that.
Yeah, you're right.
And then we didn't have any additional comments unless you want us to provide some to their advisory board, but it sounds like everybody's okay with where we're going with this. It doesn't lock you in. I think that was a good point, so.
Yep. All right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, roundtable. Becky, anything you want to talk about? No? All right. So I want to give everybody a chance. Anybody else have anything? No. You could tentatively pencil in January 22nd. I've been working with Jacob. We're gonna try to host an industrial park roundtable where we invite all those businesses. Talked to a few owners in the industrial park, and they don't all know who their neighbors are out there, and they thought that would be a really good extension of some of the business retention visits we did this summer. So
January 22nd?
January 22nd is kind of a tentative date.
So is that gonna be like a social hour first and then something afterwards?
Yeah, we're thinking like a 1:30 meet and greet at Pebble Creek and then like a 2 to 3:15.
And what are you calling it?
The Industrial Park Roundtable. So just a chance to specifically target those businesses. It was kind of something brought to me by, when I was actually at Darter doing a business retention visit. They're the first, business that was in the industrial park, so, we were just kind of talking about ways to create synergy between businesses, and that got brought up. The township asked if the people in their industrial park could be included, and Jacob and I thought that was fine. I mean, if it's kind of they consider the Salida area their industrial park, I guess.
Oh, just the,
Just the few right there on the
Yeah.
Highway 10 corridor.
okay.
But, yeah, we'll see.
What time?
Yeah, we'll find out if bar 10.
Yeah.
Where do I send that letter?
Yeah.
And what time on that?
We're thinking 1:30, but this is like really fresh.
Yeah, well, I gotta put something in, otherwise,
Yep, we think it'll be.
otherwise it'll go right past me.
Yep. So I think by the first December meeting, we'll have a little more concrete plans.
How'd your, thing the other day go? Last
Saturday
roundtable.
went well. I think we had 6 people at the Citizens Roundtable. For a future discussion, a lot of people talked about garbage collection. Greg and I have actually had a couple discussions about garbage collection. So the other night, I was at a meeting.
Hey, I had nothing to do with it, don't look at me.
I'm not saying it should be organized collection by us, but as Greg and I looked into it, we really don't have a lot of much of anything on the books about that. So, one of the couples on Third Street talked about the fact, on Third Street, we have 5 different companies coming. And they all
It's gonna be
sent,
6 now.
it's gonna be 6, I'll talk about it in a second. And they also bring, curbside waste is number 6.
Oh, thanks.
And they also send 6 recycling trucks. So you think about like turning around in a cul-de-sac, that's a lot of wear and tear on our roads.
It is.
Woodland Court over here, right off of Edgewood, they have a neighborhood collection. So one of the ladies that was there said when she moved in, the neighborhood rep came over and they actually get a discount if everybody in their cul-de-sac. Cause it used to be they had 5 different people coming in and they were worried about their kids.
We used to get that in my neighborhood, and I
Us
just
too.
paid the garbage bill today, and it was $92.
Yeah.
So there's no good deal there.
There's probably not a good deal, but, so the other night, I got out of the shower and I heard talking and I went upstairs and here was a young man representing this new company. Super high pressure, and some people have been reaching out to me about that.
Was he on the,
Scooter?
the one-wheeled?
No, he had a vehicle, but it was dark. It was like 7:45, and I know our ordinance is for 8 o'clock. But he assured me they were the greatest company ever. He assured me they were fully permitted by the city. And then I had to break the news to him that I was the mayor, and he indeed did not have his solicitor's permit because people were reaching out about this company, so I looked it up, and when he told me his name, and I was very nice for the most part. But just said, your boss kind of set you up here, that you can't be doing this if you're not on the list. So there was just a lot of concerns from the residents about that type of thing. So, first thing is ask them for their solicitor's permit, cause they should have it with them, and if they don't, they're not registered. So that's just something I know you all know, but for the public to keep in mind. And again, I'm not saying we should have organized collection, but Greg and I talked about maybe putting it on a future agenda just to talk about, do we wanna look at permitting and do we wanna at least have a day of the week, right? Because right now we have, like I said, that's a lot of truck traffic. Palmer Township's been talking about this for several years. Their streets around the lakes, they have up to 5 or 6. And then when the recycling comes, it beats up your roads. Cause they're exempt from any weight restrictions too. So it's,
And they're heavy when they're loaded.
they're definitely heavy, so.
I know we, over in our church parking lot, between that and the school buses coming in and turning around, it busted our lot up. We had to completely redo it.
So, just something that should be on. They were appreciative of the e-bike ordinance, they thought that was great. A lot of questions, obviously, about the post office. Speed continued to be a big question from a lot of people. But went from 0 at my first meeting to 6, so that's,
Zero's a tough meeting.
that was a tough. Well, I argued with myself for an hour. So, yeah, we stayed there for about 2 hours and, yeah, it was good. We've heard nothing about the post office.
What they did their 90-day emergency, what's that about,
So they never told us that. I just looked at that letter they sent to the senators, and once they're closed, they enter this 90-day review process where they have one of 3 outcomes. They can either find alternative quarters, which they're not gonna do because we've offered so many people. The guy who owns the old Lutheran church in town called and said, I have a spot they could, I mean, I've passed all those things along. So that's one outcome. The second outcome is they can initiate this 505 process, which is a feasibility study to talk about closing your post office, or they can just initiate a process to close it. So
but they have
that's-
90 days to pick a lane?
That's the way I read it. I'm sure there's no one.
I saw in the news today
Thing.
that they lost $9 billion last year. And so
Hard to believe
the little
that,
bit
but
that they
they
lose
operate.
from Becker Post Office, they gotta be losing on every post office.
Right. Well, if you look up their electrical vehicle contract, they signed with a company that had never built an electrical vehicle. And they paid about 16,000, roughly 15,000 more than if they would have just bought Tesla Cybertrucks. Not lying. And this company tried to build them and it didn't work out. The first leak test they did on the electrical vehicle, they put it in this whatever testing facility and they shoot water at it. And they got done and walked in there and opened up the doors and water just poured out, so. That was, I don't remember, it was like a $9 billion contract or something, so. I think that'd be cool to have USPS Cybertrucks. That's what I'm going for, but.
Their biggest thing is their pension liability, that's why they always, when they say they lose X amount of billion, that's where they have all that liability on there, so some of it's on the books, it's not like they're necessarily bleeding cash at the moment, but they, you know, it's coming, so.
For sure. That's what I know. Anybody else have anything?
I was gonna ask, I know that I have to get the training for the Board of Appeals and Equalization done. Can you shoot out an email to where I can find that? I don't know how everybody else stands, but I know I have to do it.
How long is our certification good for?
I was gone last spring, so I probably should do that.
3
Yeah,
years?
I figure I'm not the only person.
Okay, well, I'm good then.
One, I believe, one person who was in attendance has to be certified, I believe.
I think I got certified in time last year for, I think I was the only one that
I
was.
know I did.
Nominate Mike?
What's that?
Said I nominate Mike?
What?
Be our permanent Board of Appeals.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be
Resident
around
expert.
I'm not gonna be around forever.
No? Yeah,
It's really good for everybody.
no, it would be good, yeah, I've done it
It
before.
doesn't take that long to take the class.
It's all online now.
It's
I
been
had to take it
online
in
for
person
years.
The first time. That was-
Did you really?
Yeah, I had to go to Moss.
Yeah, I've only done it online.
Back in the day.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Okay, well, thanks, everybody. We will adjourn the executive session at 6:30 then.
Sounds like a wiener.
So I worked at ADV back in the day. We, had 5,000 accounting clients. And one of which was Darden Plastics. Really? And, you had to take a poll of all the people who, you had to say, who's your most caring customer, your worst customer that you had to deal with? Oh, no. 50% or more probably of the people polled would have said Judy from Darden. I believe that. Oh my gosh, I took a couple of her phone calls, and yeah, she was the absolute worst person to deal with.